Welcome to Cambridge House Live. I'm Bridgette Anderson and I'm joined by Greg McCoach, the president of Amerigold. Thanks for being with us today.
Oh, glad to be with you, Bridgette.
You are a gold bullion dealer, so I want to start with that. What exactly does that mean? How does somebody go about buying gold bullion from a trusted source, and what does it really entail? What's the process?
Yeah, a bullion dealer is really someone who sells physical gold, silver, platinum, palladium bars or coins. A lot of the different governments manufacture coins. In Canada here, of course, it's the Canadian Maple Leafs. In America, it's the Eagles or the Buffalo gold coins. In Europe, it's the Philharmonics. And you know what you're looking for as a buyer of these, you want to find a place that's going to charge you a fair commission, give you some educational background to help you make an informed decision for yourself. All right. There are other organizations, unfortunately, that are going to try to force you or guide you into a high commission type of product. And from my standpoint, that's not in the interest of the client. What most people want to buy is the bullion bars and coins of the country that's most recognizable today. So then in a difficult economic environment, that's going to be the easiest thing, the most recognized thing in your country or your area where you live. So,
and then where do you put those bars and coins?
I maintain that you have to take responsibility for physically storing these yourself and protect it from fire and theft. I believe that you don't want to allow someone else to do this for you, like in a pooled account or a certificate account or ETF, because by law, those organizations don't have to put the money that they receive from you in actual physical metals, only a very small portion of it. So when gold and silver spike, like I believe they will, how would they give you your return if they don't own the physical metals? So this has been my big impetus for many years now as I talk at these conferences and I speak with other investors, is to own the physical metals, take responsibility for storing it safely from fire and theft, and be in possession of your physical metal when the meltdown occurs.
You know, we've been hearing a lot about the U.S. debt structure in the U.S., and we've been talking about that a lot. Is that what is driving some of the interest in bullion right now?
Well, it's multi-pronged, many different issues. There's many reasons why gold and silver are going to move higher. In my talk tomorrow morning, I'm just talking about 10 reasons. I could probably list 25, but I only have half hour to talk. But right now, the debt is probably the biggest concern. The debt for the U.S., the debt structure of Europe. All we're hearing is political rhetoric. The politicians are doing absolutely nothing to try to put these issues in a better perspective or start moving them in the right direction. The fiscal cliff that we just saw, this was a circus in America. This didn't even address the real issues. The fiscal cliff was a remnant of the 2011 Budget Control Act that was supposed to cut spending. Well, they kicked the can when they didn't deal with it in 2011, put themselves into a deadline structure here at the end of 2012. They didn't do anything, really.
So what's the impact of kicking that down the road then?
Well, I just think we've passed the point of no return now. There's no possible way our debt can ever get paid back. Heck, we can't even pay the interest on it except through a Ponzi scheme by creating money out of thin air and buying our own T-bills at this point. So
what does that mean for investors when you say something like that debt will never be paid back? You know, that sends a ripple of fear through me, but for the average investor as well.
Well, what it means is that the currency is going to collapse. And that means if you keep your money in US dollars in US banks, your money's going to be devalued severely. In other words, you have $100,000 in your bank account. Right now, that $100,000 could, let's say, buy 3 Ford Mustang convertibles, brand new off the showroom floor. Okay, when this devaluation occurs, as it will, in my opinion, it's as sure as death and taxes. I just can't tell you the exact time frame. It could happen 2 minutes from now. It wouldn't surprise me. It could happen 2 years from now.
Is there a range of time that you are looking at, though? I know you don't want to predict.
Yeah, I mean,
time.
I don't like to do predictions within a situation like this because the U.S. government's been very adept at using their electronic money creation process, being able to kick the can. But at some point, and I believe it's getting soon, they've kicked themselves into a dead-end alley, and now we got to deal with this. So the probabilities, I think there's a 20% probability that the collapse of the dollar could happen in 2013, and 100% chance it's going to happen within 4 years. That's kind of a time frame that I'm looking at. If the politicians and the banksters were able to keep doing the funny money situation and pumping it into the system to hold off the wolves, they might have a few more years. But there's so many tenuous things right now that many people are starting to say this is going to happen now. It's all coming to a head very quickly, and I can't disagree with that.
So assuming investors are believing that and they are taking your advice and they're purchasing gold bullion, there have been efforts over the years where the government has actually confiscated and taken it back.
Oh, absolutely.
So what do investors do to avoid that from happening?
Yeah, and people ask me this question often. Can a confiscation in the United States or other countries happen? The one that's most quoted is that in 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt did in fact confiscate physical gold and silver holdings from U.S. citizens. They paid them for it, right? But after they paid them for it, they raised the official price. So essentially they ripped the people off. Now, one of the interesting things is that people don't understand why that occurred. We were in the fourth year of the Great Depression, and as we were as things were actually getting worse, not better, people ran into the banks, were running into the banks to convert their paper money into physical gold or silver, which they had the right to do. Your paper money back then was convertible into physical gold and silver based on the current rate. The bank would weigh out that amount of gold and you'd turn your bills in. Well, there was too many people wanting to do this all of a sudden, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to stop this process from happening, issued his confiscation order. Today, our dollar, the fiat currency called the US dollar, has no connection to physical gold and silver. It's total fiat currency, meaning not connected, as outlined in the Constitution. So in 1971, Richard Nixon cut the final link to gold being connected to the dollar. After that, we've been a total fiat currency. Well, politicians love that because they're not accountable to us. This is a responsibility of good citizenship, is to make sure we're keeping our politicians accountable to us, not accountable to some bankers, right? And this is the sad fact that we've had to deal with the last 5 decades, as we've witnessed abuse of our system of credit and giving more and more power to the bankers and taking more and more from the citizens. Well, the citizens need to wake up. We need to keep our politicians accountable to us, so it would behoove us to go back to a gold standard, but the politicians certainly aren't going to want that. So that's why I say it's very low chance that we'll see a gold confiscation again.
So President Obama is now in his second term, inauguration happening right now as we speak and over the next day or so. What do you think is in store for his second term? What should investors be looking out for with his administration?
Well, I think we're going to see chaos. I think we got so many issues that are going to cause huge divisions within the United States. We have this Obamacare that's supposed to go into effect January 1st, 2014. Yeah, I think it's 21 or 22 of the states have said they're not participating. They're just not going to participate. So you see the gun control issue, you see the Obamacare issue. I think you're going to have multiple states that aren't going to participate with what the federal government's trying to do. So you're going to have, what, a new American Revolution? What's going to happen with all this great divide of hatred and disagreement on major issues?
What is your number one bit of advice for investors for 2013, given the kind of chaos, the debt structure we're talking about, and what's happening globally as well?
I think you need to think optimistically about this. I mean, you can't just bury your head in the sand and pretend it's all going to go away. The optimistic way to look at this is prepare for it. Okay, it's coming. I can't tell you the exact time, but just be patient. Own physical gold and silver. Buy the cheapest physical gold and silver bullion that's most recognizable in your country. Store it safely from fire and theft. Own the quality junior mining shares that are, at this conference.
So when it comes to that, your advice about quality in the junior mining sector, what kind of due diligence should investors be doing, and how much opportunity is there in that space?
Well, the average investor really doesn't understand how to evaluate these situations. There's probably 400 booths here at this conference. Most of them you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, okay? But there's really good quality companies here as well. And you have to find out which ones have the real management teams that are trying to do the right thing for the right reason. They're trying to take the investor money, put it into the ground, make a big discovery so we could have a big return on our investment. Now, all of them aren't going to have that. Some of them will. And if you're wise enough to be invested with the right companies, and you have to spread your money over a group of them, they're all not going to perform well. You're going to lose your money on some of them, but some of them will perform very well. And when they do, these junior mining companies can go from 15 cents a share to $10 a share.
So you see some good health in the long term in this sector?
Oh, absolutely. I think in the short term, because the grind has been going on for so long in this market, a lot of people have run out of money. And unless they're quality management team or quality projects, they're going to fall by the wayside. And that's probably been due in this sector for quite some time. We need a kind of a cleansing, let's say, a cleansing of some of the garbage that's out there that doesn't deserve to have, investor money. They're just not responsible with it. They spend it frivolously on their own lifestyle as they're traveling around talking about a story that's hyped way beyond what it should be. But that shouldn't detract from the real people,
From the quality.
the quality people
Right.
that are doing the right thing. And as an investor, you just have to get hooked into those companies. And that's why newsletter writers are, a good newsletter writer is worth his weight in gold.
Greg, thanks so much for your time.
Glad to be here.